Shrimatre Namaha. Namaskaram and welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanatana Dharma learning series which is a joint presentation by the Sri Vidya Temple Society, Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, Sri Lanka. These lectures are conducted by Sri Chaitanyanandanatha, affectionately known as Ayya. Ayya is the founder and Peethadipati of the Sri Vidya Temple. Together, both Ayya and Amma, Srimati Nyanamba, have raised a family, built a beautiful temple, and dedicated their lives to the noble mission of preserving and nurturing countless disciples in the divine path of Sri Vidya while spreading knowledge of Devi worship and the rich traditions of Saiva Bhakti. Bala Vidya and Youth Learning Session will both be taking place on Saturday, September 23rd, 2023 in the temple from 4 to 6 p.m. Bala Vidya sessions are for children ages 5 to 11 for the purpose of introducing them to our culture and spiritual and religious traditions. Children will also learn the basics of the importance of rituals, listen to and explore stories, as well as engage in fun activities. YLS is for children ages 12 and up. This term, YLS will be focusing on the stories of Nayanars and more. To learn more, please visit our website, srividya.org. Each Saturday in the month of Purattasi is an auspicious time to worship and receive the blessings of Sanishwara or Lord Saturn. As black sesame seeds are an appropriate offering for Sanishwara, those who are able to visit the temple will have the chance to offer a packet of black sesame seeds into the homam or light them in a clay lamp. Tomorrow marks the start of these offerings. Devotees will have the opportunity to take part in these offerings every Saturday from September 23rd, 2023 to October 14th, 2023. Dwajarohanam will take place on the 8th of October. Be sure to visit the temple and take part in these events. Please visit our website for more information and sponsorship opportunities. Make sure to join our mailing list to stay informed about these and future events on our website, www.srividya.org. For those interested in viewing content shared during the sessions, please note that all content being discussed in these sessions will be posted after the conclusion of the respective topic on our webpage. Please use the question form to share any questions you might have pertaining to the content discussed. For those viewing our live stream, our question form can also be found on our website, which is srividya.org/aym-lectures. Just a reminder to all, we will not be having our yoga session today. At this time, we would like to hand it over to Ayya to begin today's session.
Om Hamsa Sivasoham Hamsaha Hasakafrem Hasakshamalavarayum Hasaum Sahakshamalavaraim Sahau Swarupani Hetave Swagurave Sri Annapurneshwari Amba Sameda Sri Amrutanandanada Sri Guru Sri Padukam Pujayami Tarpayami Namaha. Namaskaram. We are joining you after some time. Today's topic, I have chosen the 5 Eshwarams, Pancha Eshwarams of the island of Sri Lanka. Of these Pancha 5 Eshwarams, 2 have received padikams. That means a collection of 10 verses by 2 of the Nayanar saints. The first one is the 6th and 7th century Thiruñāna Sambandhamurti Nayanar. And the 9th century Sundaramurti Nayanar. Both have sung the praises of 2 temples. In the northernmost part of the island, there is Eshwaram. If we can bring up the slide showing the map of the island. Eshwaram is at the northern point, and northwest is Eshwaram, Northeast is Koneshwaram, south is Tondeshwaram, and southwest is Muneshwaram. Now, there are many stories as to the origins of these temples, but it is absolutely certain that they are thousands and thousands of years old. I wish to point out to you, the listeners, that these 5 Shivalayams have been worshipped for a long time. Out of these, 4 are still in operation, while Tondeshwaram, in the southernmost point, has been swallowed up by the sea. It is interesting to know a fact many people do not realize, that Ravana is credited with consecrating 5 million Shivalayams during his lifetime. And Vibhishana, who took over from Ravana after his death, is credited with 3 million Shivalayams. Now the question is asked, where are these temples? At that time, Sri Lanka was not just an island, it was part of a huge continent. The Kumari Kandam, the continent of Kumari, is supposed to have been the center of Tamil culture. And out of this, some 15,000 years ago, we were visited by a massive tsunami. And I'm sure in the bygone times, before 15,000 years, there have been other tsunamis originating in the Far East, in the Indonesian islands, group of islands, and then attacking the coastlines of Sri Lanka, just as we had the tsunami in 1994, where 600,000 people passed away, they lost their lives. And the story goes that Koneshwaram and Kediswaram, these 2 are the temples that have received Tevara Padikams. The songs are called Tevaram, and they are so powerful that they are called Dravida Vedam, the Vedam according to the Dravidians. Both these temples, Kediswaram location was very close to the pearl fisheries in Sri Lanka. Kediswaram now is located inland, but before it was located in the port city of Mathotam, Mantita. The name should tell you that that area, the prevalence of mango trees and mango gardens in that area. The Portuguese came to Sri Lanka in 1505, and in 1540, a Portuguese commander by the name of Brito is supposed to have ransacked the temple and destroyed it. But the original temple from Mantota, when it went down along with Koneshwaram, the sea claimed both temples. Parts of Kediswaram were still to be seen, but worship could not be conducted So they transported the temple to where it is today. If we can go to the map of Kediswaram, it was transported there, and eventually, due to sandstorms, that temple too, the ruins of the temple, which were destroyed by Brito, disappeared. Now, Koneshwaram also went into the sea, so we can assume that in the continent of Kumari Kandam, is where Ravana would have established his 5 million Shivalayams. By the way, when I was a student at the University of Sri Lanka, in 1968, we were sent to a place called Dimbulagala for excavations, and we were asked to assist the archaeological department of Sri Lanka. And this place, Dimbulagala, was famous for a Buddhist temple, which again was over 1,000 years old. And the then Buddhist priest there gave me the information that there inside the dry zone jungle, there were other Shivalingams. Ravana is credited with establishing and installing 1,008 Shivalingams from Koneshwaram down to Kadirkamam, which is in the southeastern coast of Sri Lanka. The normal textbooks and the archaeological records show 5 temples. Those were built by Chola kings in the 10th century when they invaded Sri Lanka. I was very disturbed 2 weeks ago on CNN. There was a snippet when they were talking about Sri Lanka. They mentioned that the Tamils were brought to Sri Lanka 200 years ago to work in the tea plantations in the highlands. It is a bold-faced lie. If these temples, the Shiva temples, are thousands and thousands of years old, who worshipped them? The Sinhalese race came into being 2,500 years ago, 2,500 years ago, with the landing of a prince who was exiled from Orissa, along with 700 of his followers by his father, because he was incorrigible and he was set adrift. They landed in Sri Lanka and they founded the Sinhala race, and that the rest of it is history. So, right from 1948, when we received our independence from the British, successive Sinhala-dominated governments have tried to downplay the importance and the contributions made by the Tamils to this island and to its culture and to its historical, the historical part of it. They have prevented anything from coming out. Eventually, even the textbooks were written, changed, showing that the Tamils were brought to Sri Lanka after the failure of the coffee crop in Sri Lanka. The British introduced tea and the Tamils were brought in from South India. That's a half-truth. There were already Tamils in the eastern province and northern province, 97% of them. The Tamils that were brought from South India were brought in as indentured laborers and settled in the tea estates where they still are. After being disqualified for citizenship, even after 50 years of working towards the economic prosperity of the island, they were denied citizenship. So they were stateless persons. But the history of the Tamils, these temples stand in mute testament that the Tamils were there long before, thousands of years before. Anyway, the 5 protective Shiva temples, Trikeshwara, Koneshwara, Naguleshwara, Munishwara, and Tondeshwara. Tondeshwara has now gone into the sea. During low tide, you can, from the coast, you can see parts of the pillars of the old temple sticking out. And in the location where Tondeshwaram was, there is a Vishnu temple called the Vishnu Devalaya, established there by a single devotee who is performing pujas and collecting money. And in the last 10 years, due to some interested parties, archaeological excavations took place in that region, in that area where Tondeshwaram is, and a Nandi, a big Adhikara Nandi, was excavated. It is on show in that area. So slowly the stories are coming out. Now, Kedishwaram, of course, there are various legends of the origins of this temple and the origins of the other temples. Now, before I go into that, you will see that there are 5 temples that are all 5 are Shiva temples. And 5 is a very interesting number as far as the Tamil culture is concerned. There are 5 types of land: Kurinji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai. At different elevations, these are there, depending on the type of soil and vegetation. Then there are 5 types of behavior: Punardal, Piridal, Irittal, Oodal, Irangal. Punardal, union; Piridal, separation; Irittal, staying established; Oodal, quarrels between lovers; Irangal, compassion. Then the 5 states of matter: Nilam, Neer, Kaatru, Nerippu, Ahayam. Nilam, solid state; Neer, liquid state; Kaatru, plasma state; fire; and Akayam, space. Then, of course, the 5 sense organs and the 5 sense organs functions: taste, light, sound, smell, and touch. Then in the Tamil culture, there are 5 great, they are called classics. Most of the West knows only 2 classics, Ramayana and the Mahabharata. There are 18 classics in the Indian culture. In the Tamil culture, there are 5 of them: Silappadikaram, Manima Kalai, Jeeva Sindhamani, Valayavadi and Kundalakeshi. Then there are minor classics also. There are 5 of them. I will not waste your time reading the 5 of them. Then there are, the Tamils recognize 5 types of metal: gold, silver, copper, iron, and lead. Then there were 5 types of rulers and officials in a government: minister, purohitar, priest, senapati, commander, Thuduvar, what do you call them, envoys, and Saranar, the soldiers. And then there were 5 types of decorations: Mudi, Kondai, Surul, Kudal, Panichai. These are types of decorations that were recognized. Then, of course, you know the 5 Pandavas, the Pancha Pandavas. Then there were 5 types of exposition. If somebody wrote an article, if somebody wrote a classic, if somebody wrote a story, the expositions were Padam, Padaporul, Vakyam, Vinavidai, these things. All of them you will notice are in 5. And then, of course, the Aimbhuta Stalangal, the Panchabhuta Stalas in South India: Kanchipuram, Tiruvanekaval, Tiruvannamalai, Tirukkalati, and Chidambaram, depending on the 5 bhutas. Then gemstones: Vairam, Muttu, Manikam, Neelam, Maragadam. Vairam, diamond; Muttu, pearls; Manikam, ruby; Neelam, sapphire; Maragadam, emerald. There are several of these combinations. Sets of 5 are very important. Colors: Vanmai, white; Karumai, black; Semmai, red; Ponmai, gold; Pasumai, white. These things are there. Off-white. Then 5 types of ladies were described, great ladies who have lived through history: Akalika, Draupadi, Sita, Mandodari, and Tara. Then 5 types of festivals. As people who run a temple, we should know this. Nitya Utsavam, daily; Vara Utsavam, weekly festival; Madam, Irumurai Utsavam, that means bi-monthly Utsavam; Madandira Utsavam, at the end of every month there is a festival; and Vardandira Utsavam, every year there is a festival. Then in Puranas, in the Tamil Puranas, there are 5 of them which we always sing in the temple: Thevaram, Tiruvasakam, Tiruvicheppa, Tirupallandu, Tirupuranam. 5 types of murtis: Ganapati, Subramanya, Shiva, Devi, and Mahavishnu. So you will notice correctly there are Panchamritams also, the elixir that we use. Panchamritam: milk, curds, sakkare, jaggery, ghee, and honey. Then also you are very familiar with the almanac, which we chant during Sankalpam. It's called Panchangam, Tidhi, Varam, Nakshatram, Yogam, Karanam. These things are there. So it is interesting that in Sri Lanka, the island is protected by 5 Eshwarams. In keeping with the tradition, the 5 of them are there. Trikadishwaram, parts of the temple when it went in. And in 1540, when Brito came and destroyed, he ordered that all temples and Dagabas, Buddhist temples and Hindu temples should be destroyed. And that Catholicism should be spread in Sri Lanka. So there were forcible conversions. Even to this day, if you go among the Sinhalese, especially the low country Sinhalese, there are two types, up country Sinhalese and low country Sinhalese. Those that live along the coast are called low country. Up country are ones who live in the highlands. The up country Sinhalese are from South India. They belong to the Nayaka clan. They were brought to Sri Lanka. The low country Sinhalese are the ones who mixed and married with the Portuguese and the Dutch and the English. If you will find that 40% of them they carry Portuguese names, De Silva, Fernando. So when the Portuguese destroyed the temple, Brito could not take his eyes off of the statue of the Devi when he came, because she was so beautiful. So she was a granite statue, you would understand. He ordered his soldiers not to destroy that statue. And what he did was, the story goes that he sent it to Lisbon and had a figurine, a statue made from the same face as the Devi, a statue of Our Lady. Both were brought back to Sri Lanka. And it is said that the original Devi statue of Sivakama Sundari is buried beneath the church that was built over for that particular statue. That is the church of Madhu. And Catholics who come to Madhu, they visit the Kedishwaram temple, and the Kedishwaram devotees go to the Madhu church. This has been going on for some time. This Kedishwaram temple, although there are many stories, in the 1727, there was a Mudaliyar who built a small temple, and also the story goes that Ketu, one of the Navagrahas, is supposed to have done penance in this area, because it is said that because he attempted to deceive the Devas to get a part of the Amardam, his conscience kept pricking him, and he was roaming around everywhere looking for solace. And when he came to Mathotam, he sat there in penance and started to perform Shiva Puja with Aradhana and Abhishekam daily. And it is said the Lord of Kedishwaram appeared before him and asked him, gave him some boons and asked him what he wanted. And he beseeched the Lord that he should stay there. And from that point, that temple was known as Kedishwaram. The word Thiru means, it's a adjective. Thiru is like saint, so and so. Thiru means Tirumahal, Lakshmi. So Tirukedishwaram. Now this temple, after being destroyed by Brito, Brito was the Portuguese commander that destroyed Kedishwaram. The one that destroyed Koneshwaram was called Constantine Diza. Anyway, after they moved the temple from parts, when the parts of the temple went into the sea, they brought it over to the present location and built it. And that's the temple that Brito destroyed. And so long as the Portuguese were there, they would not let anybody else, they wouldn't let the temple to be reconstructed. And that area happened to have sandstorms, so it was covered over. And for 300 years, it disappeared from view. In 1893, a Tamil scholar by the name of Sri Rajarajeswari kept complaining to the Tamils and to the Hindus, to the Shaivites in Sri Lanka, saying, this temple is now living only in the Padikam, only in the poetry to Shiva. By the way, if anybody is interested in finding out what is Eshwaram, there is an author, she's a Tamil, she was married to a Westerner, Indra Peterson. The title of the book is Poems to Shiva. And she writes about Mover Tevaram, Appar Sundarar and Manikavar, Appar Sundarar and Sambandar. Now, what is not known by many Tamils, even to this day, is that Appar also sang about this temple. But he did not sing a Padikam. He just didn't sing Padikams, only Padikams he sang other things too. And in one of those Padikams, Kedishwaram is mentioned. And this Kedishwaram, even to this day, is one of the most powerful Shivalingams that you can find. The original Shivalingam, when the archaeological department, at the behest of the Catholic Church and the Saiva Mahasabha in Sri Lanka, when the court decided that excavations should take place, and whichever religious symbols came out of the earth, the land would be given to them. Chettiar is the one who bought that land, bought this land, and because of him, and the story of Armo and Avalar finding the temple, I have told this before. Armo and Avalar worked under a Reverend Percival in the Jaffna Central College. Jaffna Central was run by missionaries. During the daytime, he was a teacher and a lecturer at this college. In the evenings, after school, he would go from village to village, trashing the missionaries that they were destroying Shaivam. And for 8 long years, he was obsessed with finding this temple. He used to go to an acquaintance's house and roam around in those jungle areas. Part of this, the temple where it is located is part of the dry zone jungle. If you leave it for 2 weeks, if you leave a piece of land for 2 weeks, it will be overgrown. So he couldn't find it. And every vacation that he got, he would travel to this gentleman's house, stay there, and spend his time walking around the jungles with other people, trying to see whether he could find any trace of this temple. 8 years he didn't succeed. 8th year, it is said that he was, because the temperature in that area never goes down below 85 degrees. He slept outside on the veranda. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, an old man came from the night and called him Ayya. He woke up, he saw an old man with a sack, a gunny sack over his head and a lantern and a stick. And he told him, I understand that you have been looking for this Kedishwaram. I know where the temple stood, I can take you there. But I have to leave somewhere tomorrow. So if you come with me now, I will show you where it is. And in that area, there is a shrub by the name of Nochi. In the Western Plains, here in America, remember the Native American Indians had a particular thing that they used to burn? Like that area had Nochi. And while the old man told him, I am walking along the perimeter wall of the temple, Armanavlar was behind him breaking twigs from the shrubs so that he can come and check the place tomorrow. And after leading him along the perimeter of the temple, he said, this is where the temple stood. And he said, Ayya, I will take you back home because you cannot walk alone in the night. Took him back. And Armanavlar, when he came to the house, he turned around to thank him. He was not there. So God knows who came. Could have been Appar, or it could have been Sundarar, or it could have been Viridhan Sambandar. Nobody knows. Or Shiva himself, who knows? And that is the piece of land that the Chettiar bought and which ended up in litigation with the Catholic Church. And the temple was built, and in 1976, the Kumbhabhishekam took place. Several of them, after 1893, during Armanavlar's time, he could not see the temple being built and consecrated. But at least he knew, and they found the Mahalingam there. Can you go and show the slides that show the Shivalingams there? When they excavated the archaeological department, the first thing that they found was one of the workers with his hoe hit a stone. Can you go to the Shivalingams, please? You can see the Shivalingam in silhouette here in the left-hand corner. That's the original Shivalingam. There's a clearer photograph of it, if you can show it. There are two other lingams that were in the slides. Anyway, because it was a little chip happened in there, they could not worship it. That Shivalingam is taken today. It is in the Prakaram. That is, it is one of the subsidiary Sannidhis there. And no regular puja can be done to it because it is broken, but Q public is allowed to go touch it. And bringing water from the Palabi river, which is, which flows over limestone and therefore has a milky appearance. Devotees during festivals or during pilgrimages, they'll bring water from the Palavi river and pour it over this Shivalingam. Can we have other slides of this temple, please? What was shown today? That's the temple bell. Shiva Nataraja. This Shiva and Devi were cast on site. They wanted this done. That was by Sir Kandaya Vaidyanathan, who spent most of his life, and he was a highly educated, very highly British educated gentleman who dedicated his life for the Eshwaram. And even though he was fairly rich, he built a hut. And the last 10, 15 years of his life, he lived in that hut. Without any amenities, no running water, no toilet, nothing. He lived there. And he was responsible for doing so many things. And of late, now we hear that his family, his children, beginning with his wife, they are the ones who are now going to do the Vimanam on the Devi shrine. Next one, please. I have had the privilege of working with Sir Kandaya Vaidyanathan. He was an amazing personality. Now, before this present temple was built and consecrated, 52, there was one Kumbhabhishekam. And the temple was very small at that time. I remember it had tiled roof and a small cement Vimanam where the sanctum was. This is the latest one. You can see this is pure granite. But when I went, myself and a gentleman, a friend of mine by the name of Sivalohanathan, we went there for a few days. And one of the pujas, I saw two snakes, cobras coming down. And the harati is hoisted, they come down and on either, they hang on either side of the Shivalingam with the hoods open. And when the priest came out, I asked him, what about those? He said, they will not harm anybody. One of them is Brito and the other one is his assistant, the one who destroyed the temple. He said that they think they are paying in the form of penance. Every day they come for darshan, the cobras. When they disappeared, we have no idea, but that was one time I saw them. Can we go and show the others? These are all present day structures. These are new ones. You see in the distance, see the Vimanam is, these people came from Mahabalipuram to build them. This was before the establishment of the government college for sculpting in Mahabalipuram. This was before. Other photographs, please, go through. This is the original Shivalingam, as you can see. He is called Mahalingam. So beautiful. If I stand, he will come up to my neck. That big. So we will stop here for today. And if there are any questions, please, the person who is dealing with the questions can read them and put them on the screen. Any questions? No?
Yeah, so far we don't have any questions.
If you don't have any questions, I can go on and talk about Koneshwaram. The singing of Padikams. You know that in Tamil Nadu, there were 63 saints who have had in their lifetime, they were all Jivan Muktas. That means they had interactions with Shiva while they were on this planet. And most famous among the 63, there were 4 of them. 3 of them sang Tevaram, Deva Aravaram, became Tevaram. Deva Aravaram. They are equal to mantras because there are, if you sing those padikams in the proper meter, in the proper raga, pan it's called, and talam, you can achieve results. So they can be applied. Just like Sanskrit mantras you can do prayogams, you can do prayogams with Tevaram. All of them. So, if a Shiva temple has received a padikam means 10 verses of this in praise of that deity in that temple. Then it is called Tevara Padikam. If they have received Tevaram from Upper Tirunavukarasu Nayanar, Sundaramurti Nayanar, and Tirijnana Sambandhamurti Nayanar. Tirijnana Sambandhamurti Nayanar started singing when he was 3 years old. So his approach to Shiva was son to father. There they are. The one on the extreme right is Manikavasa. The one dressed like a prince is Sundaramurti Nayanar. And the one with a piece of cloth and something that looks like a fly swat, that was called Ulavaram. He never went inside the Shiva temple and performed pujas and things like that. He cleaned the temple, the environs of the temple. He cut the grass with that instrument, upper. And late into his life, till he was, way into his 80s. And the last one is Tirijnana Sambandha. So if some of them have sung on a temple, that is a stamp of approval for that temple. And it's a mark that the temple was vibrating alive. And some of them, if you go there, even to this day, you can feel the life in those temples if you go there. So, these were called Padal, song, Padikam, Petra, Stalam. The stalas that have received songs of praise from these 3. And in all of Saivaism, the only temples that are not in India are in Sri Lanka. That is why these are so precious, that we have to make sure that they remain from today or from forever for the next generations and the generations that are to come. Unfortunately, we hear that the interest in the temples are there. They are interested in having the festivals, but there is no spreading of the knowledge. There is a distinct separation from the priests and their duties, and very distinct separation between the devotees. And the devotees do not have the interest to learn. Somehow this has to be changed. So these 2 temples, now Sundaramurti and Jnana Sambandar have sung on Tirukkediswaram. Triñana Sambandar has sung on Koneshwaram. And of course, the other saint was Arunagirinathar, who has sung in Trincomalee and in Kadirgama. There are about 6 padikams from Tirupur from him. And out of these, only Arunagirinathar walked all the way from Talamannar to Kadirgamam and back. He walked all the way. And he went there, he sang those. So let's stop there for today. Are there any other questions? No. No questions have come. Okay. Now, let's look at Nakuleshwaram, for instance. Nakuleshwaram, I think, is the youngest of all these temples. There was a gentleman, Rishi by the name of Nagula Muni, whose picture that you see, statue you see on one of these. He is supposed to have been born with a disfigured face. And it used to trouble him because people used to look at him with slanted eyes. And he went looking for someone, and he found somebody, a saint, who directed him to Nakuleshwaram. That place, Nakuleshwaram, is in a place called Kiri Malai. Kiri means ferret. He's supposed to have had a ferret face. And he was asked to do Shiva Puja here. It's interesting because the freshwater spring is exactly 1/8 of a mile from the ocean. And it has medicinal qualities. Up to this day, people go and bathe. I have bathed in that many times. And Nagula Muni performed Abhishekam to Shiva and performed austerities in this place. And lo and behold, his ferret face was changed. Then, a daughter of one of the Chola kings, one of the kings, her name was Maruda Puraviga Valli. She was born with a disfigured face also, and horse face. This is the tank. See the ocean? It's so close to it. Fresh water. See, temple is situated adjacent to the mineral water springs. Kiri in Tamil and Nakula in Sanskrit mean mongoose. Sage Nagula Muni, shrunk by age and austerity while meditating at a cave in Kirimale, was likened to a mongoose that frequented the area. The sage bathed in the springs and was cured of his mongoose face. In gratitude, Nagula Muni constructed a small shrine and worshipped the linga enshrined there. See, Sri Tambaleshwaram, Kovil of Kirimalai, is also called Nakuleshwaram Kovil. Now, the Shivalingam there also is quite big. It's about 4.5 feet tall. And we have worshipped it. It has suffered during the civil war. The military bombed the thing and it was rebuilt again. Kumbhabhishekam has been done. There is a priest there who is now 99 years old. Very learned gentleman. And he chants Rudram 5 times every day. even at this age. So Nakuleshwaram is, I told you, the youngest one. And this Maruda Puravigavalli was advised. Naturally, the story of Nagula Muni spread, and she was advised to go here. She came here and she did the same thing, and she was cured. And there is a story also that one of the Sinhalese kings married her. And in gratitude, she built what is called Ma Vittapuram Kandaswami Koil, Ma Vittapuram, the place where that deformity was lost. Ma Vittapuram Kandaswami Koil is still around. And when I finished my education as an architect from the university, my first job was to do measured drawing of Ma Vittapuram Kandaswami Koil. And a few of my friends got together and we did several hundred drawings and gave them to this temple. That was the first job I got to do. It was a Subramania Swami temple. Okay, we'll stop there for the day and we'll see you again, God willing.
Thank you, Ayya, for today's session. To access all content from the sessions, please visit srividya.org/aym/lectures. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's session.